Checked it.
That's good? Oh, that's better. Okay. Great. It's still the middle of the night. I got here on Thursday and still getting adjusted, but you know, if you look at my Facebook page, you will see a photo of me on 160 meters, which is one of my favorite bands, working CW, and it says, European sunrise, there's nothing else like it. And so I got to see European sunrise this morning. But listening to it happen on the radio is something very special, and this presentation here this morning is what you're going to see is a radio station that took 32 years to build. And so it is a progression of building. It is a constant drive to improve the station and to have fun with the operators. So let's see if we can progress the slides. There we go. So this is the station. Well, not quite. This was the station when I was 13 years old. I was licensed when I was 12 years old, and I passed my general class test when I was 13. And I'm very proud of some of the QSL cards. In fact, this QSL card right here is LU5HFI. Fred Lon is now K3 Zulu Oscar, and is still very active on the air. And in fact, my WRTC partner, Sandy, DL1QQ, who is here today as well, will operate with K3 Zulu Oscar in November in Thailand. So this is a really cool hobby. I mean, this is really cool stuff. And you're going to see a lot of these links as we go through the slides here today. So, where is K3LR? Well, I'm in the far western edge of CQ Zone 5, right up against the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. And I'm right in between some large cities, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Akron, and Erie. So I go to work every day at DX Engineering, which, for those of you who don't know, that's like going to work at the candy store. I mean, you know, everything I could ever want is there, and I make sure that it's there. That's part of my job. How many people in here have talked to K3LR on the air? Look at that. Boy, that's something. I got goosebumps. That's incredible. But so there we are, right in the edge of Ohio and Pennsylvania, and it's a very quick trip from the Pittsburgh airport for the operators that come in. So 1 mile off the border. And when we work DX stations, they say, well, it's very nice to work the East Coast. Well, this is 400 miles from the East Coast. So we are the first Zone 5 that the Japanese hear. But we are the last Zone 5 sometimes that the Europeans hear. But that's okay, because we've made up for it with good operators and good antennas. The real secret to this QTH is this drop-off towards Europe. When I selected this QTH in 1987, this was a paramount thing. Get on the side of a hill and have a very, very quick drop-off. So very quickly, this goes down to a riverbed that's down here, but towards Europe, it drops 325 feet very quickly. So all of the antennas here at K3LR have a very good takeoff, as well as there's a good takeoff to Japan. In the DX contests, over 80% of the QSOs come out of Europe, so it's a very, very important deal. It's flat going into the Caribbean and towards VK and ZL. So this is looking overhead. This is the northern part of the operation at K3LR, and so here are this is the 160-meter 3-element vertical Yagi. It can be aimed in 4 different directions, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Here's a 4-square for 20 meters and a little 4-square for 10 meters. We use these 4 squares on the high bands to be able to listen at the same time we're transmitting. So there are 11 operating positions at K3LR. And there are 2 on 10, 2 on 15, 2 on 20, 2 on 40, 2 on 80, and 1 on 160. So we have one station that is dedicated to calling CQ. We have the other station on that same band is dedicated to tuning around, searching and pouncing looking for stations that are calling CQ. But while we're calling CQ, that other guy has to be able to tune around. And that's how we use these 4 squares to be able to do that. On 80 meters, there's a pair of 4 squares here. So these are full-size, they're 75 feet tall, four verticals, but this is broadside on Europe. This is one of Justin's favorite antennas. This G4TSH has piloted ADCW from K3LR several times. And then this is the largest tower. Doesn't look very large when you're looking straight down at it, but it's 275 feet tall and has a lot of antennas on it. So in the middle, there is a 4 Yagi array for 15 meters, and there are 7 element Yagis, so there's 28 elements here, 32 elements on 10 meters, and then 20 meters has a very tall tower, 245 feet, and we'll get more into that in a second. So this is the 40-meter tower. This has 3 full-size 4-element Yagis on 40 meters. So the reflectors are 75 feet long, and each one of these weighs 370 pounds. They're huge antennas. This is the largest 40-meter antenna array in the world. Nothing is taller and has as many elements. So the top antenna is at 260 feet, and above that is a 9-element 10-meter beam that sometimes that antenna is the only antenna that we can hear a multiplier on, especially when the band is in the condition it's in now. It's very important to have this. We call it an elephant gun because it is 60 feet long and 9 elements. And so looking down the tower, we also have 2 antennas for the second station on 20 meters and then some for the 10-meter second station as well. 138 square feet of wind load on this tower. This is that same 40-meter tower. This is how it looks from my neighbor's house. How about that? Yeah, they have a lovely view. I can say that in England. And so, but this gives you an idea. I am in a neighborhood, and it is very important to have good relations with the neighbors when they have a view like this. And I have antennas on both sides of the road, too. So slowly accumulating more property to do more things with. But it is very important to have good relations with the neighbors. This gives you some idea of the size of this tower. Here are those 3 4-element 40s, and the verticals here in the background, and then that's the Interstate 80 that you saw on the map, and that goes coast to coast, New Jersey to California. And so we frequently get visitors that stop on the highway and hop over the fence. Looking down the tower, the 10-meter beams as well on the 40-meter tower. And you won't see any insulators on the guy wires. These are all either fiberglass or Philly strand, so all non-conductive guy wires. And here in the middle of this tower at 160 feet is a pair of horizontal Waller flags that are used for 160 meters. It's a rotatable 160-meter receiving antenna, and it is sometimes the best antenna, but not always. But you can almost see the tips of the fiberglass elements. There's wires that are going between them, and they hang down here. But this is a very, very interesting antenna, and it works very well sometimes. We have 16 different antennas to receive on 160 meters of K3LR, and this just happens to be one of them. And you see these deals here. These are all ring rotators that allow the antennas to rotate around the tower. They can rotate 360 degrees underneath the guy wires around the tower. This is looking up at that tower. It's jam-packed with antennas. And it's very important that you select the right antennas at the right heights to make sure that they're going to work, but also to keep the interaction down. That's very important. And so this is the 20-meter tower. This has an 80-meter dipole on top at 245 feet. We use that on the second station on 80. And then there are 4 6-element 20-meter Yagis. And these two towers are tall enough they have to be lit. By US standards, anything over 200 feet has to be lit. Oh, wrong way. This is down the tower as well. And here is the two 40-meter beams for, these are 2-element Moxons. And these are used by the second station on 40. And very, very effective. The elements are only 46 feet long, and they work very well. So the second station is not far behind the primary CQing station. This is the center two 6-element Yagis on the 20-meter tower. And again, looking up at the ring rotators, that you can see the antennas that spin around the tower. There are 25 rotators at K3LR, so there's a lot of things being rotated. This is the 8-element 10-meter beams for the run station. There are 4 of them stacked up here. And here's a young operator who came with his father to visit, and the coax is so big he can't get his hand around it. So we use very, very low. We use what the VHF and UHF guys would use. Well, on 10 meters, that's our VHF band. So we use very large coax to keep all the losses down. This is the 160-meter vertical array. The center tower is the driven element of the 3-element vertical, 3-element Yagi. It's a vertical Yagi. And there are 4 T-wires that are around, and they're 66 feet from the base of each T-wire to the driven element tower. The tower is a full quarter wave, so it's 120 feet. And so to go to Europe, which is where most of the QSOs are on 160, this yellow wire is grounded. It is now a director. So all 4 of these are tuned as directors. If I float them, if they're not connected to anything, they're invisible. But all I have to do is with a relay at the bottom of the tower, or bottom of the wire, ground it, and it is now a director. Back here on this yellow element, I'll put a small inductor in series with it, turns it into a reflector, and then I float the 2 blue elements. And now I've got a reflector, a driven element, and a director going towards Europe. It's almost 5.5 dB of gain and 30 dB of front to back. Very simple with just relays at the bottom of these elements. So this is a radial field at the bottom of one of the T elements, and then 300 radials beneath the driven element on the ceramic insulator of the tower driven element. And boy, we had more of that 1 5/8, so what the heck on 160. But we're 1,500 feet away from the shack, so it is important to have low loss going there. The 80-meter verticals, there's the pair of 4 squares. The pair of 4 squares works just like stacking any other Yagi. You get 3 dB more gain. So we stack it, and with 8 verticals, and here's the radial system, 120 radials under each. And the center 4 towers of the 2 4 squares, you can see a lot of attention to copper flashing and soldering. Every summer, we go out with the equipment, the VNAs, to make sure that the array is suitable to go for the contest season. We use the Comtech Systems phasing box in the middle, available at DX Engineering. And this is the same idea, the quarter wave spacing. So on 20 meters, that's about 16.5 feet, but it is a 4 square for 20 meters, and it was only on the second station to be able to listen through the CQing station. This is 15 meters right next to my neighbor, and no problem with the receive verticals there. This is an 8-circle array for receiving on 80 and 160 meters. This is high Z, and so these are short 23-foot verticals. These have replaced all the beverages at K3LR. So we can rotate this to 8 different directions. And this is the center phasing box. You can see the verticals here. You can see the trenches that were put in to go to the verticals that for the feed elements. This is inside the phasing box, all the control logic that it takes to do it. and the chokes to make sure that the feed lines stay very cold for RF on the outside of the shields. Here I am actually tuning up the box. This is my friend W3YQ. He just came back from spending 12 years in Alaska. He was KL7 Whiskey Victor in Alaska, and Tim and I met when I was 12 and he was 12 on ADCW, and we've been friends for 47 years, still working together. So it's lifelong friends, as you know, come with this great amateur radio hobby. Taking a look at more of the wiring that it takes to put together. This system can be used on 80 meters and 160 meters at the same time with two different control boxes. So the 80 meter operator can be aimed on Europe, and the 160 meter operator can be aimed on South America at the same time, and neither of them knows that the other is going a different direction. So it's very, very flexible for us. This is the base box of one of the verticals for the receiver array. Inside, two chokes, one for the signal, one for power, and here is the preamp that it takes to power the vertical. Here are all the preamps. We actually have a 4 square and an 8 circle that are phased together. Again, broadside on Europe. The QSOs, the money is in Europe. And so here is the inside of the little choke boxes, 27 turns of small coax on a number 31 toroid. This is the house at K3LR. This was built in 1865, way before radio, way before electricity, way before indoor water, and etc. But it has been updated, but it's still a period house. It was built in the Civil War. You couldn't imagine that there would be a world-class radio station at this location. We have our own 50 kilowatt mains transformer, and if that dies, we have our own 50 kilowatt generator. This is an 8-cylinder Chevy engine, and it is powered by natural gas. So it will go as long as we need to. If we lose power, 8 seconds after we lose power, this comes online automatically. This is the inside station at K3LR. It is a 30-foot by 30-foot room. It is jam-packed with equipment. And when you put 12 operators, 11 operators in here, it can be a little cozy. But it's 48 hours of having fun on the radio, talking to people all over the world. Get a little view here. This is the two stations on 80 meters. They're side by side. This is where G4TSH will be next month at the 80 meter position. And 160 meters is over here. This is one of the exit doors going outside. QSL cards from all over the world are here. And here's the coax lines coming in. There are two entrances for coax lines that come in. Everything is marked and labeled. And in the floor, there are 13 ground rods. And they go right in, these are right below the operators. So the ground connection is very close and it's very good. This is the AC power, but there are 13 rods in the floor. Here are some US operators you may be familiar with. Doug K1DG and Ward N0AX during a CW contest at K3LR, and then K1DG on phone. And as has happened here recently, sometimes 15 meters doesn't cooperate, and some of the operators get concerned. Did the antennas fall down? And here is Dan N6MJ with K3UA, another longtime friend. Last year in the CQ Worldwide phone contest, so it was 2017, so in 2 weeks we'll have the phone contest again. But last year this pair did 2 hours back to back. There were 340 QSOs made each hour, which is an incredible rate when you divide 60 minutes into 340 QSOs. And the audio of this is on my website, on the K3LR website. You can hear what this sounded like. Dan N6MJ is one of the best contest operators in the world, and when he was paired with another great operator, worked very well. So this is one of the 11 operating positions. This is the second position on 10 meters. We use the ICOM IC7851 as our radio on each band. You can see the 4 rotor controllers. These are green heron. The operator, here's his watt meter. He knows that he's got 4 antennas that he's capable of feeding. Right now he's just feeding the center 2. So he has a switch box here. These are push button switch boxes that allow him to select the antennas. For instance, on 40 meters, you can select the 260, the 190, the 120. You can feed all 3. You can feed the top 2 or the bottom 2 or the 260 over 120. The operator has instant control of his stacked antennas. We've revised the switch box. You can see that the 3 LEDs are now lit up. So 1/3 of the power is going to each one of these Yagis. This is the 15-meter run box, 160 over 120 over 80 over 40. There are 10 combinations. Sometimes for instance, when the band is open to Europe, all 4 antennas are aimed at Europe. When the band starts to break away, and so maybe some South Americans will call in, we'll put the 40-footer down towards South America, but put 25% of the power in each one of those antennas. Some guys from the West Coast, N6 TV and N6 AN. You see the 2 side-by-side 7851s, the stack of 4 rotor boxes for the run operator, and they have to coordinate because only one can transmit it at a time. And there is a lockout box that makes absolutely sure that only one transmitter on each band is on at a time. So here they're feeding the bottom 3 antennas, 120, 80, and 40. And so the 3 lights for the bottom of the stack are lit. I like these W4 watt meters, but they're approaching 50 years old, so you put new connectors on and things work better. This is the control boxes for the 40-meter stack, those 3 big antennas. And Sandy DL1QQ decided that it would be good to have a mug on top of it, that size matters. And this antenna is a very special antenna. I've heard recordings of how we sound in India and Thailand and Taiwan, and it's incredible. The amplifiers at K3LR, they all run 1500 watts on the dot. We don't run any more power than the legal limit. Our competitor, our main competitor, W3LPL, also runs 1500 watts. So we are running the US legal limit. All of the amplifiers are home brew. I made them, and they are a single 8877 tube and single band. There are no band switches. So it's very easy to make amplifiers when you don't have to make them on across all bands. So we turn these on at the beginning. We don't turn them off until the end of the contest, and they work very well. Each one of the amplifiers has its own 4,000 volt power supply down on the floor. And here's the 20-meter run position. You can see the 4 rotor boxes for the 4-high stack and the 7851. And here are the 2 stations on 20 meters side by side. Each operator has his own computer, etc. The 10-meter guys, 10 meters is not so busy, so they have time to text their wives, and it could be. But when it gets busy, this is in the CQ Worldwide, we'll work over 3,000 QSOs, and we can't wait for 10 meters to be good again. This is 160 meters. I am the operator on CW for 160, and so a lot of phasing boxes and switch boxes going on 160 meters. But it is it's a fascinating band, and this is the control for the horizontal wall or flag. We use the DX Engineering phasing box to phase antennas together. And here's Sandy, DL1QQ, who is also here today with us, who was my partner at WRTC 2018 in July. Last July, we were in Germany, and she is a phenomenal CW operator. And so she was on 80 CW with K3UA, and she's also N0QQ in the US. We use the Bose headsets because of the noise canceling in a multi-multi environment. That's very important. And we use the ICOM IC7851 as our radio of choice. Very good performance. This on 75-meter phone, on 80 meters phone. This is Al N5UM, who I operate 80 phone. So I'm 160 CW and 80 phone. And here's Al at 4:15 in the morning, taking a little power nap before the JAs come in. But you can also see our new computers. These are the Intel NUCs. These have replaced all the desktop computers at K3LR. It's a very small package that hangs on the back of the computer monitors, 4 inches by 4 inches by 1.5 inches thick. It has a full solid-state hard drive in it. It's powered by 12 volts and works very well, very space efficient. You can see mounted on the back of the monitor, very space efficient. So that freed up tons of space in the operator room. Here's the Soda Beams Whisper, testing things. Oh, and the cat back there watching over. How many cats do you know get to sit on top of an IC 7851? This is a very favorite box of Justin's. This is the 80 meter XL Twin Turbo Plus 2. This is a custom design box that allows us to share the 4 squares between the 2 stations. The dipole that is very high is a good antenna, but the 4 square is about, a pair of 4 squares is about 6 dB better. So with this box, the antenna flips back and forth very quickly depending upon which operator needs it. This is the control box for the high Z vertical array for receiving. We use very large harmonic filters. Interference is a big problem at a multi-multi station. And so you have to make sure that you filter all the harmonics out, and we do that with those filters. This, when the operators are not operating, they hang out at the DX barn, and it has a DX sign that actually lights up. And for those of you who don't know, DX, back in the 60s, in the middle of the United States, there was a company called DX Gas. And they've been bought and sold several times since, so they're no longer around. But I found this sign down in Sulphur, Oklahoma, when I lived in Oklahoma, and I moved it up to Pennsylvania. Inside the DX barn is sleeping for 8, and also my collection of QSL cards that I have asked to be buried with me so that I can sort them finally. Won't have much else to do. But there's 150,000 QSL cards there. And thanks to Sandy, she spent a lot of her time organizing them in boxes. Here are a couple of other K3LR operators, Andy, N2NT, and VE3 Echo Japan. And so you can see that these guys are on CW. The CW keys are out that weekend. And then SSB, we put the microphones on, and the keys go away. And again, these are 2 operators on 20 meters side by side. One of them calling CQ and one of them tuning the bands. For SSB, we use the DX Engineering foot switch. And this is the lockout box. This is the run and the mult station. And this makes sure that only one transmitter is on the air at a time. If the multiplier station tries to transmit, his radio goes into transverter mode, and it does not work. So this is very efficient to make sure that we stay by the rules. Again, taking a look at the box here for antennas, and also this tells the mult operator, the second station, if the run guy is transmitting. You notice it's off, now it's on. And so that tells him that he will be locked out if he tries to transmit. The second station, or the mult station, has control of those 4 squares as well. So that's what you see here on the bottom row. We try to have a good time. In fact, yesterday I worked K1AR when I was over at GB3RS. So the operators are very active and on the air. This is November Papa 4 Golf from Puerto Rico. He comes up during the phone contests, and he's fluent in Spanish and Portuguese, so that's very helpful for working South American stations. And Otis, it's been a long road here the last couple of years on 10 meters, and so the 10-meter operators have had time to make funny pictures to put on Facebook. And here's Justin, G4TSH, operating 80 CW with K3UA, as he will later in November once again, and you can see the closeness to the 20-meter operators. We do analytics at K3LR. We know how many QSOs and multipliers all the way back to the beginning of multi-multi contesting at K3LR. So we keep track of who the winning team was. K3LR has been putting together some good wins. Back when I was putting this station together in 1991, there was a multi-multi station owner at the time said, "I don't know why you're building a multi-multi station in Western Pennsylvania. You will never win." So I put that up on the locker. And 41 wins later, we're doing just fine. So CW Skimmer. We have CW Skimmer receivers at K3LR. It's the Perseus receivers. These are SDRs. So in between all the transmitting that's going on, these software-defined receivers actually will copy CW and put them on the reverse beacon network. And so this was the rack. One computer for each one of the receivers has now been replaced with NUCs. And so these Intel NUC computers are now powering the SDRs. So there are the 6 Perseus SDR receivers, one for each band copying CW and contributing to the reverse beacon network. I do a lot with RFI suppression with ferrites on all of the power cables and signal cables, and DC distribution for the NUCs. Good linear power supplies, no switching power supplies are allowed at K3LR, including iPhone chargers, not allowed. And we have, we make coffee by the cup, and so during a weekend we eat well, and we try to have healthy snacks, Nutri-Grain, you know, it sounds healthy. We have our own chef, Chef Sal, WM2H, who comes in. He's getting ready to smoke the brisket, and he takes care of the kitchen. And you know, 12 operators can eat quite a lot, and it's important. An army travels on its stomach. So, we have 2 different breakfast chefs. N2NC makes breakfast on phone, and I make breakfast on CW. And you get to request what you're going to have, and then it shows up right at your desk. It's pretty good. And here's Sandy and me enjoying Hawaiian chicken. We had just worked a KH6 on 10 meters. So we use the wind test logging program. I was in Brazil in 2006 for WRTC, and F6BEE showed me this program. We were using CT at the time, and I said, boy, this looks really good, and we are hooked on wind test. Absolutely phenomenal program, very, very stable, and it does everything that we need to do, keeping track of the band map, logging the QSOs. Boy, would I love to have this line on 10 meters this year. This was a few years ago when we set the US record in the CQ Worldwide Phone Contest. 3,242 QSOs on 10 meters, 170 countries on 10. But you can see wind test keeps track of all the countries and zones and QSOs and our points, and almost 13,000 QSOs in a weekend. I'm a voracious QSLer. I love getting QSL cards. I love sending them. And so we do have a database. We don't constantly send to the same station that we work. If we work you every year, we're not going to send you a card every year, but every unique call sign will get a QSL card via the Bureau. I like t-shirts. This was one of our CW t-shirts for Team K3LR. And after the contest, we go to what we call the real 3830. So 3.83 megahertz on the dial, and we actually will communicate with the other multi-multi operations that were going on in the US, and sometimes it's just W3LPL, sometimes there are more there, but we actually know at the end of the contest how we ended up. Pretty close. Now there have been times when the score is just too close to call. And Justin has been a part of that on CW. It's very hard for us to win. So a lot of times we might be in second place at this time, but after log checking, go up. And if we're fortunate, we might win a plaque. And we've started doing some RIDI contests at K3LR. So this was a plaque from Low Power Multi-Single. Here you can see some of the crew pictures. ILTHRS. I love this ham radio stuff. And so this is what it takes to power a multi-multi for a weekend. And this is here is a CQ Worldwide CW contest. Here's this guy, G4TSH, and N6MJ was there. So and KL9A. They first operated at K3LR together, and then they ended up winning the gold medal in Boston in 2014 in WRTC. So it was pretty impressive. They're great operators and fun to have at K3LR. And the real reason we do this is that we're best friends. And so we've had a good run at K3LR with operating the radios. One of the things I'm most proud of at K3LR is almost every weekend that there's not a contest going on, I give a tour to a club or a group. And this happens to be the University of Pittsburgh College Ham Club. They came up and spent a day at K3LR. So we sit down, we go through the antennas, we talk on the radio, we talk about life, we talk about studying hard and doing well in school, and the things that are really important in life. But making an impression on young lives is very important to me. I learn things from everybody. You know, you just don't walk out and you know how to build a stack on 40 meters. People help me along the way, so I like to give back and help others. And so this is one way that I can do it, through giving tours of this radio station. So we have just a few minutes left before 10 o'clock, so we could take a couple of questions. Yes, Dave.
How much does it cost for one weekend? You know,
Yeah, well, the thing, so if you just take electricity, for instance, it's $180 for electricity. But where can you have as much fun as we have for 180 bucks with 12 guys? So, yeah. Yes.
When you're using your SDR skimmers, do you mute them when you're transmitting, or are they receiving all the time?
They're receiving all the time. They have receiver protectors. DX Engineering sells a receiver protector. It actually was commented on in the latest RSGB magazine in Radcom. I found in the low frequency area, the guys on 136 kilohertz are using the RG5000 that we make at DX Engineering. But that receiver protector allows us to let the receivers run. They listen on the antennas that are not in use at that time. So there's a switching system that allows the skimmers to use antennas. Yes?
Question, two simple ones really. Hurricane Sandy
Yes.
and lightning arresters.
So Hurricane Sandy, there's Sandy right there. And Hurricane Sandy, I was so, like I said, I'm 400 miles off of the coast, so it didn't do anything. Some of the operators that were there had troubles because N2NT and those guys. Lightning protection, I use a brute force method. In March, when the contests are over, I disconnect everything. Everything is disconnected. And then in October, I hook it all back up. So I stay away from lightning. Yes, in the back.
Yeah, I often wonder why you were so much stronger than KC1XX and W3LPL. Now I know.
Well, and frequently when I visited here in Europe, you know, I go to Friedrichshafen, or we've had contest universities in Italy. Guys will almost grab me by the shirt and say, W3LPL, K3LR, KC1XX are louder, much louder than anybody in the US. You must be running power. And it's all in the antennas and the sighting. If you do that right, you don't need power. So, and you know, in a multi-multi game in the United States, if you run power, your reputation is junk. So there's no room for that, but this is how it's done. Good antennas, great operators. Anybody else? Yes.
What's your noise floors like, and are you seeing them change over the years?
Yes, the noise floor is very important. I spend a lot of time with the power company. I give him a lot of beer. I take care of him because that is so important. All of this stuff is worthless if there's noise. So over the years, neighbors will have drill chargers and computers that make noise and things like that. So they used to knock on my door and say, you know, I think I'm seeing you on my television or I'm hearing you on the phone. I used to call it the Meet a Neighbor program, you know. But now, and the guy who recently had a drill that was very hot and was making lots of racket on 15 meters, he says, let me get this right. I'm interfering with you? So, yeah, that is a very important thing, and I spend a lot of time making sure that we tamp down the noise.
And it's down at natural level?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's S0. S0. In a neighborhood, too. It's a full-time job just keeping that under control. Yes?
How do you go on with sort of the planning side of this? You know, I don't know about the states, planning applications.
Oh, planning?
Yeah.
For permits and things. In the township that I'm in, the permitting is very easy. So, yeah. Some beer is involved. Yes?
Have you considered using SDRs as your main rig?
No. And here's the reason why. We need the roofing filters to operate on the same band with two stations like that. We need brute force roofing filters in the radios, and the SDRs can't handle that yet. I believe they will at some point. The performance is fabulous. The IC7610, some of the flex stuff it has great performance, but you can't, right now we can have a station on 20 meters sitting there calling CQ, and we can work search and pounce with about 15 kilohertz away. You can't do that with an SDR. Anybody else? Okay, I think it's 10 o'clock and I think we're done.
There you go.
Thank you.